Oh yes, yeah, stand there. But as I say, there's still a process, because even if we assess it,
Just used to sitting this side.
there's still no absolute right to enable all the reasons why that's entitled.
Yeah, and
So that would be assessed as property.
Convention on environmental decision making should mean we should see the opinions of experts, not the opinion of experts modified by council officers.
Well, I think it's in the opinion of the experts. I think the question.
On the air quality, not on the
Do you want me to get them?
Oh, well,
Yeah, I'll go there because
got
there's
this.
pile of stuff.
Sure, I can assist you on that one.
Thank you, then.
Passing the buck to you, yeah? Well, absolutely. No, opinion of excellent.
Probably right. Goes well. Feeling neglected anyway. I forgot my glasses.
Okay. We've got a 9:30 bedtime in
Right, yeah. I should.
You've got your safety boots.
Oh, yeah,
Tigers.
I am.
Maybe just
All right.
it was pretty cheap.
Now that's to don the.
It's terrible. Right, I'm interested to see. I didn't have a full week since I was there.
Coming together well.
That's it, above ground now. Yes, it's all. There's other stuff is not.
Well, not that we're aware of it. So that's what I'm thinking. What it
I do have a lot of confidence in
Yes, the best. Whether they can achieve
No, basically the way budgets is they stretch the meeting out as long as possible. So it's 5 minutes to 6. Give us 5 minutes to take off the council.
Yeah.
Absolutely, don't expect me till half.
You'll want to see it.
No, I haven't said this. What I've said to capital, certainly I might want to take the budget idea is down about 3 months before. Week before, we and then the other and then you can work yes, we actually made that based on the talk.
Election came around and I took she's gained
Sorry, I can't.
I think that perhaps we shouldn't be making this dimension of actually we should have to
Listen on what was doing.
Well, really,
Yeah, well, I was told it was you.
the two secret budgets, never two the others do some ideas.
I would love one.
Do you
It's not it's only one of the council.
I'll have to make
Is it the council?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the slightly delayed start. I forgot to bring my glasses into the room. Right, first item on the agenda is the evacuation procedure. And I do see one or two new faces in here. So the fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and not the lifts. Once outside the building, please gather outside the Yorkshire Bank on the opposite side of the road. There is only one fire exit in this room, which is clearly marked. If you need any assistance, please make yourself known to a member of staff. And could I ask you please that mobile phones are turned off or set to silent. Part of the, or all of the meeting will be recorded for future broadcast, and any member of the public, as you can see, has also got the right to film the meeting. Item 2, apologies, and the Cabinet are all here, so there are none. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any others which are not listed on this agenda? No? Thank you very much. Is it agreed I confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of January? Item 5 is public consultation, and as far as I've got the list here, people who have indicated the wish to speak are on item 6, Councillor Kondaka, item 7, Councillor Kondaka and Michelle Kondaka, item 8, Councillor Kondaka, item 9, Councillor Kondaka, item 10, Councillor Kondaka and Michelle Kondaka, and item 11, Councillor Kondaka. So I will firstly just start by looking at the timetable of meetings. We now have done, to help people's diaries, a 2-year meeting schedule has been drawn up, which follows the pattern that we've used this year, and using the same sorts of evenings and taking into account the same limitations on where we can have meetings and when we can have meetings. And that's put before you. Councillor Kondaka wishes to speak about this.
Thank you, Chair. In the last year I've been on the Planning Committee again, and it's clear the Planning Committee has some very long meetings sometimes when there's lots of applications, but also gets quite quiet near bank holidays, etc. A couple of things on the planning thing. We seem to have a meeting on the 12th of December. That's only 2 weeks after the one on the 28th of November. It would be really nice if we actually had pre-side to this and pre-discussions, so actually we could put friendly amendments to actually sort out some of these issues. And then obviously during election time, we have a long period of 7 weeks without a planning meeting. I understand why you can't have one immediately after the election, but it would seem sensible to shovel the meetings up a bit, so that, particularly like the Easter bank holiday, have a slightly longer gap there, and then shove the meetings up so they're closer to the May elections. That way you don't get a 7-week gap in planning meetings, because you are supposed to determine applications in 13 weeks, so a 7-week gap is not very good. The second point I wanted to raise is about the Standards and Audit Committee. Audit meetings are incredibly short. They usually have very little to do on the agenda, and we really need to look about merging the Standards and Audit Committee like they do at the County Council. I think the independent panels, remuneration panels, looking at this as one of their ideas, because it doesn't make sense to have a large number of really short meetings when actually it would make more sense, particularly it's difficult to get people to go on Standards and Audit all the time, to actually have one more meaningful meeting that's Standards and Audit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, of course, you did have this in advance with everybody else, because everybody gets a paper copy of the Cabinet agenda, and so you were able to send in any suggestions then. I will propose we accept this timetable from the Chair. If any alterations need to be made during the year, they can be made by each and every body that is meeting in advance. They can decide to move the meeting for various reasons regarding holidays or to deal with certain planning matters or whatever. They can be moved. This is to give people some advance notice for their diaries, and I think that's quite sufficient.
I'll second that.
We agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. If people want to, if the committees want and need to change, they can do. Item 7, support for start-up businesses. This is actually a mistake in the Cabinet, in that although it was under regeneration and public protection during this last year, it's actually been under my portfolio when we had a rejigging of portfolios. In terms of this, the Council's economic development strategy includes an objective to support a diverse local economy and to broaden job opportunities for residents. One of the specific actions to achieve this is to evaluate a support service for start-up businesses to see if it offers value for money. The report concludes that the service, which is backed by European funding, does offer value for money. Start-up businesses are generally seen as essential to a growing and sustainable economy. There is a county-wide gap in market provision for this kind of support, which comprises expert advice to encourage, mentor and signpost new business start-ups. The service will cost the Council £18,000 per annum for 2 years and is expected to deliver support to 61 new businesses in the borough and 56 new full-time permanent paid jobs. This represents a cost to the Council of £590 per new business supported and £442 per new job created. The service will be targeted at businesses with high growth potential. It will be delivered through the Chamber of Commerce, who are experienced in this field, and the Chamber will work closely with the Growth Hub to ensure a very comprehensive range of support services. So it will be also a service receiving extra funding from the EU, from Warwickshire County Council, and this support has also been offered to all districts and borough councils in Warwickshire. So we've got 2 speakers on this, Councillor Kondarka and then followed by Michelle Kondarka.
The County Council pumps in millions into various enterprises to get businesses going. It's currently got 2 million to help rural businesses. And we know how many thousands unemployed there are in rural areas compared to Nuneaton and Bedworth. So it must be welcomed to actually have some money to actually help start-ups. But it shouldn't be misunderstood that for £500 that's all the help a business needs. So this is clearly a signposting service, a very welcome signposting service. We don't criticise it in any way, but we don't want the misimpression to be made that a job wouldn't be created if you hadn't signposted them, and by spending a few £100 on signposting them, suddenly a job will be created. I've worked for my business for many years before I became a councillor, so I know what it's like in some ways, but I never had a growth ambition. And I think it is important to realise that only some start-ups are actually start-ups that actually want to grow. So I think it's important to screen the start-ups to actually see which ones actually physically want to take on lots of workers and grow into a medium-sized business, and which businesses are actually people doing something they're interested in, doing it via a business, but are actually fairly happy with the size they are. So overall, I'm happy with this as it goes, but we do need serious amounts of help for our businesses. I say Warwickshire County Council, just £2 million on rural businesses, yeah. We're not getting the help we deserve in Nuneaton and Bedworth. And you look at the number of start-ups that are in places like Stratford, big start-ups that are turning over serious amounts of money and producing serious amounts of business rates, and you see how uneven the council is, county council is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Councillor Kondarka? I've just got one. Have you brought that up as a county councillor with the county council?
I raised the issue of business help continuously at full county council meetings, and Councillor Jackson will testify what a pain I am with Izzy Second sometimes.
I hope.
Thank you. Good. I don't think we need Councillor Jackson's opinion about your comments. Michelle Conrad.
Thank you. Well, I also want to say that any sort of support is welcome. The bit that I was slightly confused by, if I might have completely got it all wrong, you'll surely correct me, it says, responding to requests from other districts or borough councils to benefit from the enhanced level of service enjoyed by Nuneaton and Bedworth, Warwickshire produced application, blah, 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 things. It then said that, so it was obviously, they understood that we actually needed, as a borough, needed more support. But then everyone else seems to have jumped on the bandwagon and said, oh, yes, 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 we like that, and things, can we have it too, and things. So I was just concerned that, yes, obviously it is something that's well worthwhile and things, but what are we doing as a borough to try and overcome the fact that our figures are so much worse than any of the other boroughs? Because it doesn't appear, this appears to be just something that all the boroughs are getting, and not something additional that our borough, with what appears to be greater need from the numbers and things, is actually getting.
Is there any questions to Michelle Condoka? No, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to point out that questions regarding the distribution of help from the County Council, which is of course the main economic development authority, it isn't us, it's the County Council, should actually be addressed to the County Council, because it's questions we've asked many times in the past. I am pleased to say that the LEP, which is Coventry and Warwickshire Local Enterprise Partnership, which is a majority private sector, has now changed its membership for the board as from March, in that the leader or deputy leader of each district council will automatically have a place on the LEP. This creates alters a situation which has been grossly unfair in the past, whereby a vote was held in the 5 districts as to which 2 people should represent all 5 districts. As a result, Warwick District and Stratford-on-Avon won the vote and kept the North out of membership of the LEP board. This has now been corrected, and it has been corrected by Warwickshire County Council and Coventry both accepting 1 less delegate, because the rules are that the public sector cannot outnumber the private sector. But it's a very welcome change. The chair had recently been inviting myself and North Warwickshire to meetings, but without a vote. So from March, this authority will actually get a fair bite at the cherry by fair representation. So we do feel at least we've been treated fairly by the LEP, but we continue to press the County Council for money to be put in the areas where it is really needed, and in our county that's Nuneaton better. Any other member on this item? We're happy to accept the report?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Housing Services Electrical Maintenance Service Level Agreement, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the Cabinet report is to seek authorisation to enter into a 4-year service level agreement for electrical maintenance. The terms of the contract will be 2 years with the option to extend the 2 1-year extension, all based on performance. The recommendations are printed at section 2.1. The background starts at section 3, with the scope of the SLA discussed at section 4. Section 5 reviews the expenditure, and you will see the graph 1 shows trends of lower expenditure since implementation of the SLA. Value for money and savings are explained in sections 5.5 to 5.8. And it is worthy to note that 2 importantly shows that customer satisfaction is excellent. The report is summarised at section A, Chair. You will see that there is the potential for further savings for this council, and I would move the recommendation as printed at 2.1.
Thank you. Councillor Kondaka.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have quite a few council flats in my ward, places like Cleaver Gardens, Carisbrook, Ryde Avenue. And one of the issues that keeps coming up is the failure of the landlord lighting that plunges people into darkness, as it's getting quite old now. It's really good we're saving money on this new contract, but one thing we can also look at is trying to reduce our maintenance bill for landlord lighting and reducing our electrical consumption on landlord lighting by actually doing some, rather than reactive repairs, some proactive modernisation of the lighting. A lot of our landlord lighting is as old as the flats, and yet they are using a lot of energy all the time, and I think it is an area we should be looking at in terms of A, giving people better, more secure, more safe lighting, B, reducing the amount of repairs and reactive stuff, and there will be a considerable energy saving as well. Generally, the lower cost we can do things, and the more we do things as planned maintenance and upgrade rather than reactive call out, the better. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Kondaka? Thank you very much. Reports before you. Any comments, or are we all happy to go ahead with this?
Yep.
Because we've all got council housing in our wards. You should imagine that goes for the entire council. Don't know what in our council housing. As I repeat, I don't know a ward without any council housing. Item 9, Housing Revenue Account Budget and Capital Programme. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the revenue and capital budgets for the Housing Revenue Account for 2017-18. The draft revenue budget shows a surplus in 17-18 of 2.952 million. The Housing Revenue Account budget is based on a number of assumptions as outlined in paragraph 4.2, which includes a rent decrease of 1% in line with government policy. The resulting average rent for dwellings is estimated at £78.54 per week. The draft budget also includes the changes agreed by Cabinet to create an independent living service as a result of the loss of £781,000 of housing related support received previously from Warwickshire County Council. Housing Revenue Account continues to face another rake of challenges, and they are listed at 4.5 to 4.8. No increases in HRA fees and charges have been included in the draft budget, but there is a suggestion here from officers that a 3% increase should be approved, and I would like to move that, Chair, if I can at this stage. Section 5 outlines the HRA capital programme, which totals just under £9 million, thus ensuring that the planned improvements to tenants' homes continue. Full details of the capital programme are outlined at Appendix C of the report. The risks are all itemised at Section 6, and there is an additional to the working balance of 1.3 million. That means we have to have a 2.5 million working balance. The business plan has been updated, and that is shown in Section 7 of the report. I go back to the recommendations at Section 2, which do include, as I mentioned earlier, the increase of 3% for other fees and charges as shown at Appendix D. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, let me just get my list. I think it's Councillor Kondaka. Am I? Yes, Councillor Kondaka.
Thank you very much, Chair. There's lots of interesting stuff in the Housing Revenue Account, and we really don't look at it often enough as councillors. Apart from, I think, Whitestone and St Nicholas that don't have council housing, I think most of the other wards have a fair amount in each of the wards. One of the things I wanted to pick up, obviously, on this was the near £500,000 redundancy cost on the bottom of page 53. That is a lot of dead money paying people to be made redundant. And I do hope we are going to really try and give staff the opportunities wherever possible to move to within the council for us to work, and look at the stuff that the county council's doing in terms of trooping anyone over who are then doing any care functions related in a similar area. But one of the things that's gone drastically wrong is we haven't reviewed our sheltered housing for long enough, and now the change is so abrupt that actually we get a very, very large redundancy cost. Yeah, it is no way to manage a system to suddenly lose around just under half the staff at sheltered housing. Lots of other things in here. I mean, energy costs is always a big thing I think we should be driving down continuously. And the capital programme is actually very big. Yeah, we're talking about £9 million capital programme on the housing revenue account's about a £24–25 million budget. So we do need to get good value out of this. And things like vehicle replacements and things like that, we need to make sure things aren't gold-plated. Yeah, we need to actually make sure that money is managed well in this particular budget, because this becomes debt. The capital programme becomes debt, and the debt actually has then a bearing on your revenue for the housing revenue account. So I don't think we scrutinise stuff enough. Stuff never seems to go to scrutiny committees. Yeah, I mean, this CCTV, £150,000. All sorts of things just come in here without very, very little looking at it. But yeah, we do need to keep our housing in a decent state as well. So I understand why the capital budget is so large, but I do think we need better scrutiny of it, particularly, say, £9 million. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Conacher, are you aware that the Cabinet doesn't decide what goes to scrutiny? The scrutiny panels themselves decide what goes to scrutiny.
I am aware of that, and it's the chairs, the vice chairs, and councillors like myself if they put on a request for something to be put on the agenda. But I must add, we need to know about it. So things like the CCTV systems, if we don't know you're putting on the capital programme, we don't know to ask for it to go to scrutiny.
Well, I just want to reiterate, the Cabinet does not decide what goes to scrutiny. That is the idea of the system. Thank you. Councillor Jackson has proposed the...
Chair, I just did want to ask the Director for Housing to confirm that we do actually have council housing in every ward in the borough.
Yeah, it is a small amount in Whitestone and St Nick's, but there are...
But we do actually have council properties in every ward in this borough. And thank you, Chair. I just thought it was worth clarifying.
Thank you. Item 10, General Fund Budget and Capital Programme. This is on page 17. This report presents the draft General Fund Revenue Budget and Capital Programme for 2017-18 and a forecast outturn position for 2016-17. Section 3 shows the forecast outturn for the current financial year, which is an additional contribution to reserves of £8,000. The key variances that make up this small underspend are given at Appendix A. The current draft budget position for 2017-18 is shown at Section 5, which is a deficit of £425,000, after taking into account savings that have already been identified and approved by Cabinet. The next section considers the options available and the actions required to ensure a balanced budget for 2017-18 can be recommended to Council. This includes a decision on any increase in council tax and fees and charges. The 3-year financial plan has been updated, and this is shown at Section 8. This gives an overview of the issues facing the Council in the medium term and further government funding reductions that are planned as part of the local government finance settlement over the course of this Parliament. Section 9 shows the proposed capital programme for 2017-18 and the resources available to finance it. The programme will be 10.138 million and full details are shown in Appendix D. A risk assessment of the assumptions built into the 2017-18 budget is included at Section 10. The localisation of business rates continues to present significant additional risks to the authority, and this must be reflected in the level of reserves that are maintained. A review of the reserves that the Council maintains has been carried out as part of the budget setting process, and a summary of these are shown in the report at section 7. The recommendations are shown at section 2. Two speakers on this, Councillor Kondaka and Michelle Kondaka.
Thank you, Chair. This has been amended, I believe, so I believe you're talking to the amended version of the paper. It's very difficult to know what the difference between the two is. A few things to pick up. Obviously, we are £250,000, £300,000 down on car parking income. We've repeatedly said when it was being brought in, the more you charge, the less income you get. Yeah? People will only tolerate a certain amount of parking charge. Otherwise, they'll go to other places where I'm not moving to, even as much as Barry Longdon wants me to move there. On the capital programme, there's a massive issue in the arts and leisure budget. Almost all of it seems to be being spent in key labour areas, with the exception of the cemetery space. And I did make a mistake. I forgot the caretaker's lodge on the cemetery in St Nicholas is actually in St Nicholas Ward on the Oaston Road. But yeah, if you look at this capital programme, it is not very fairly spaced out. We have a lot of money in places like Bailey Park, the cricket club in Bedworth and things. And we have a lot of development in the north of Nuneaton, and there will be a lot in other places as well. And yet the arts and leisure budget is focused on keeping labour areas happy. On some of the more detailed things, obviously we want a lot of scrutiny on the variations. The planning income is a long way above where it should be, because obviously all the speculative applications coming in ahead of the borough plan. So we now probably £200,000 up on planning, but actually that's a false amount, because actually we're losing section 106 and SIL money we could get if we had planning applications after the borough plan came in, if it ever does. And air quality, I mean, I'm sure my wife will go on at great length about this stupid saving of £5,000 on the air quality monitoring and £6 on the air quality monitoring tube every month on the Old Hinkley Road, when we've got so much development. The traffic over the Leicester Road Bridge will go from 30,000 cars to 45,000 cars a day, and you're taking the air quality monitoring down to the bare legal minimum. This is not useful, because with good air quality monitoring we can ask for money from developers to actually do something about our air quality. By actually cutting back on our air quality monitoring in Nuneaton and having poor air quality monitoring in Bedworth, we're not getting the money we should have to solve some of the problems that are being produced. We have so much on here. I mean, I could talk for hours on your budget, and I'm sure I'll have another go when you tell us what's in your budget. Because that's the other thing that's dreadfully wrong with the way we do budgets here. We have to speak about this, and then you tell us what's in it. I don't know what crazy and silly ideas or what good ideas you'll have in this budget this year. In 1 year, I actually voted for the Labour budget this council because it was a well thought out mixture of proposals. So if only you'd actually work like the county council and actually share budgets early, we can actually have a constructive process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I just would ask you one question, Councillor. Are you aware that there are no such things as Labour areas, Conservative areas, Liberal areas? People in the borough are all treated to exactly the same services and facilities throughout the borough.
We do not believe that is the case.
Oh, could you just further explain? Who are we?
The public and...
Oh, I see, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, the public think more money spent in Bailey Park than on Sandon Park. And they see the wonderful measured miles, metal posts, all the ridey bits, wonderful stuff in a small area.
Thank you, Councillor. You're speaking for the public. You can know that down. Look forward to you being leader of the council in 2018.
That'll be wonderful.
Right. Well, I am going to... oh, sorry, it's Mrs. Connick who wishes to speak. But however, I must point out she can't speak at great length, only within the limited time, because Councillor Connick says you will speak at great length. You can have... How long is it?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
I won't be speaking at great length because he's already said half of what I was going to say. Again, as Keith's already said and things, it's hard to talk about the budget because I don't know what it's going to be and things. But the bits that stood out for me as a member of the public were the amount that is down on for car parking income and also reduced market income. And I know I've mentioned it before and things, but it's something that really needs to be looked at seriously. When you introduced the borough plan consultation documents here at Cabinet a few weeks back and things, in the paperwork there, it actually mentioned that the market was one of the key features of Nuneaton as a town, and that there were issues with it shrinking, and we needed to look at how we were going to do that. And I really hope that in your budget there is something to look at that, because it doesn't take an expert to see that it is shrinking, and it's a shadow of its former self. And I've not lived in Nuneaton all my life, so from what I understand, it's even from the time I've known it, it's reduced from what it used to be. Mothballing of the air quality monitoring station, Keith's already touched on that and things. It is absolutely mad to not be doing the proper monitoring with all the development that's going on. And if you look at the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health, their paper about air quality says that they believe that the levels should actually be reduced as to what is acceptable and things. So we're only just about in some areas keeping under the minimum, so that is a serious issue. The other thing I'd love to know more about is the £60,000 saving on sports development. There was massive spending in order to do the climbing wall and staff that and things. I haven't seen much sight of the climbing wall. I did even look on the website to see when it might be available. This was a week or two back. I mean, the website might have been changed since then, but there was nowhere where I could find out where it was going to be, when it was going to be, anywhere. So I really don't know what's happening about that. I can only surmise that this 60,000 saving is related to the staffing of that. I have no idea, because it's just one line in the document. Okay. And Pete's already covered the other bits about the income from planning applications being very short term and not a long term issue. Thank you.
Any questions, Michelle Condacco? No? Thank you very much. Well, I will now propose an amendment to this resolution, which will deal with the budget. Can I ask you to give out the copies? Kelly will distribute the amendment that I'm going to put forward. I would, while she's doing that, point out that the original gap we had for 2017 was not 429,000. It was 1.4 million. And we have, from cabinet after cabinet meeting, open to all and with everybody able to comment, since last year, gradually brought that down, so that we've actually already saved nearly £1 million before we actually get to this point of doing the final budget. In addition, next year's budget is also going to be a shortfall of a very similar amount, around £1.4 million. So over a 2-year period, this council will be short, as a result of government cuts, of £2.8 million. In addition, that now means that since 2010, when we were all in it together, government came into power, we have lost 60% by the coming financial year, 60% of our total income from government. I would like to know what other organisation can manage to protect services as we have done on the whole, and protect as many jobs as we have done, and to keep costs to the public as low as we have done, with similar cuts in their income. I'd like to know even which family household could do that. So today's budget will continue in the same frame that we have in previous budgets, putting service provision number 1. So first of all, we shall increase the independent living wage for those employees it applies to buy, and this will cost us £4,000. This is more than the government allows for, because we don't believe that what George Osborne considers a living wage, and not the wage he lives on. I'm talking about the wage that he considered was the living wage, is enough for people. And we believe in paying people a decent income. When we add this to the original deficit of 425,000, this gives 429,000 shortfall. We shall first of all reduce the contribution made to Pride in Camp Hill by 10,000. A lot of that work has now taken place and we expect them to cut their cloth accordingly. We shall amalgamate Audits and Standards Committee, which will save us 2,500, an idea we have been thinking about for a long time, and not as a result of a certain person here today. We are going to look at changes in the management arrangements for Walkington Pavilion to work with the community groups there, and closure of Marston Lane Pavilion, saving us 11,000. We shall restructure the Democratic Services section, saving us 10,000. We shall cease subscription to the HIS Technical Index, 6,500. We are restructuring the Training and Development section, 11,000. We shall save within the IT&C budget, 17,000. We are making savings for this year, but it will be more in future years, by relocating the Council's depot facilities from July 2017 of 20,000. We're going to save £3,000 across the grounds maintenance budgets. We've already done number 10, reduction in the budget for Town Hall floral decorations, where we've taken out the decorations in the stairs in this building. If members decide to put them back in this evening, it'll cost us 4,000 more, but we decided that we could do decorations on individual events and so on more cheaply. We should review licensing, admin and customer interface, saving 1,000. We shall ask members to hold surgeries in council-owned buildings, saving £1,000, not having to hire buildings. We shall reduce the budget for mayoral hospitality by £200, a small budget, but there it is, it's going to be saved. Then we've got reduced costs for the Deputy Mayor's car. There isn't an actual car, it's for use of the car, their own car by the Deputy Mayor. We're relocating market stall storage to Harefield Road car park, brought about partly by the move to Gresham Road. We shall reduce the reduction in the budget for grants to voluntary organisations of 10,000. And while this seems a large figure, the actual total for grants to voluntary organisations is enormous in this authority and way higher than other districts. We shall restructure the land and property team, and that's thought it could be a half-year saving of 6,000. We shall introduce selective licensing in the private housing sector on homes in multiple occupation. We shall transfer elements of building control to NABCEL to operate on a commercial basis. We are able to reduce the capital works budgets to enable a reduced revenue contribution to capital, and that's partly because of investment in new facilities, which of course require a lot less work. We have an increased income from NABCEL due to expansion of the existing property portfolio, an increased income of 40,000. This will take us well above 200,000 coming into the council from NABCEL, a system of an in-house company which is now being copied across the country and which many councils do not yet have. We shall make staffing savings in communications and events of 10,000, restructure the engineering and surveying section of 25,000. We shall only increase cemetery fees by CPI plus 1%. This is in line with the previous OSP recommendation taken some time ago. And increase other charges by 3%, again a very low charge, excluding car parks, markets, building control and licensing. That will leave markets with having no increase since, I believe, year 2013-14. I believe Bedworth Market, I believe, is the cheapest market stall in the country. But I'm happy to look at other examples if somebody can find me one cheaper, but I believe I said that last year. The District Council tax, we're recommending be increased by £5 or 2.3% on a Band D property, taking it to £220.29, which will raise £181,800 in additional council tax income and protect our base for future years. We shall have surplus resources with this budget of £28,500. These will be added to the general fund balances to support the savings programme for 2017-18, but of course still leave us for 2017-18 well over £1 million short. So I'm recommending to you that the Director of Finance and Procurement assurance statements on reserves and base budget proposals as included in Appendix A be noted, and because of the timescales involved, the General Fund Revenue Budget 2017-18 is considered as an urgent item and not subject to call-in, as provided for in paragraph 15F of the Overview and Scrutiny Procedure Rules in Part 4 of the Constitution. And this budget has been signed off by the Financial Director as the Section 151 officer. Is that seconded? Any comment? Okay, we all agreed with that? So that will go forward. We will, of course, have further debate on that in this evening's council. Agenda item 11 is the Treasury Strategy and Budgetary Framework. The report sets out the Council's strategy for borrowing and investing resources during 2017-18 and through to 19-20. All the Treasury and prudential indicators requiring approval are detailed within the report, but summarised at Appendix B. These help to ensure that our capital spend is affordable and prudent. The report includes forecasts for interest rates and future capital spend and details the impact that these have on the borrowing and investments for this Council. The Council's investment policy strategy and our investment counterparty creditworthiness policy, which details the methodology for selecting suitable investment counterparties, are detailed in sections 11 through to 13. The Council is also required to have a policy for a minimum revenue provision for debt repayment, and this is explained at Appendix A. The recommendation at 2.1 is for Cabinet to agree the proposed Treasury strategy and budgetary framework for 2017-18 as detailed in Appendix G of the addendum and submit to Council for approval. And due to the timescales involved, this report is marked not required. Councillor Conduct.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone who regularly watches the ONS statistics will see what a difficult time it is to predict the future at the moment with interest rates and CPIs and IPIs and growth rates. I actually think Craig has acted a marvellous job in terms of managing Treasury, but it's not made easy by all the government changes and also all the things that are hard to predict. We have a massive amount of debt. I mean, it says in the paperwork £85.7 million actual debt on one of the 31st of March. Our debt levels fluctuate, but are in the mid £80 million. So it's really important we actually manage our capital programmes well, and also our Treasury management has to borrow money to cope with what capital programmes we have and what capital receipts we have. We're repeatedly told we're going to get money from the building behind you. No one told us how much or when it's going to be sold. Before the last elections, it seemed it was about to be sold imminently. But that's obviously a big chunk of money coming in. And then you're going to spend that on property. One of the things that worries me about the capital programme, the Treasury stuff, is that things don't happen at the times they're supposed to. When are you going to get the receipts for the money the building behind, if it's going to be sold? When are you going to spend money on property? All these things require the Treasury programme to actually borrow or invest money from those various activities. So it is worrying that so much is poorly managed and poorly set out in terms of the management of the council to actually give Craig a better chance of actually borrowing and investing and doing his job. Far too many questions. And then we've got things like the Gresham Road depot. That capital's £800,000 dropped from 1 year into the next year. So that's obviously money we could have borrowed under the Treasury management system to pay for the depot being finished by March, and now it's going to be finished by July. So project management is really important to actually mean we manage our millions of pounds of investments and our millions of pounds of debt effectively. And it's going to be a worrying time, particularly with the movement to the United States and currency fluctuations. Who knows what's going to happen? Thank you, Chair.
Any questions of Councillor Kondaka? No, thank you. Well, I've put this report before you and would like to add, I'm sure the Cabinet will agree with me, thanks to all the finance officers and officers from other departments who have worked on this and on the budget, and a lot of hard work on both of them. We are extremely lucky to have the staff that we've got at this authority, who are all well qualified and despite certain people shaking their head, who are all well qualified and well able to give us the advice that we need, which I have to say we have always taken, and that will be continuing, because I'd rather rely upon Simone, Craig, Sarah, everybody else whose name I don't instantly know, rather than any Tom, Dick or Harry to give us advice on how to do the adding up. Are we agreed with the report in front of us? Thank you very much.
Yes, there are no field scrutiny recommendations.
There are no other OSP recommendations, and there are no other items which have to come before the Cabinet. So thank you for attendance, and we'll see you in an hour.